a Technics SL-B500 record player. It's an auto stacking one, and this one has the stacking spindle. I think it can take about 6 records. You can play 33s and 45s. Also has something called a memogram. I'm not quite sure how that works. It's a belt drive, and this one has got quite a nice P-mount cartridge, an SLT96E, which is quite a good one apparently. Perspex covers survive, the hinges aren't broken, there's the turntable, but the weight and pivot is snapped off. It's completely sheared off on the 2 edges. So and that is the adjustable pivot, little pointed part which can be adjusted in and out to get it nicely operating. And there's the pressure set at 1¼ grams at the moment. So going to have to be repaired somehow. It's quite heavy, this weight. Really, when it was shipped, they really should have unscrewed that weight and taken it off. I mean, being banged around in the post, that weight, no wonder it's sheared off. If I'd shipped it, it would have been obvious to take that off. Anyway, I'm going to try and repair that. This is also a 110 volt one, and I'm on 240 volts here. I'll have a look inside and see if the motor or the electronics, be a motor in this case, has an optional winding configuration for 240 volts. If it hasn't, then a very small, like 10 watt or so, step down transformer can be fitted. I'll do that one way or the other. I'll clean it up, get that repaired. Got to work out the correct glue that will stick that, and be careful it doesn't get on the on any of the moving parts. Otherwise, that was flailing around inside. I think that's what's made some of these scratches. Oh well. Okay, let's see how I get on with it. How to glue this back on. You can see there's an insert in there which this grub screw screws through to give you the side play so that it's got no slop, and then it's got this lock-in collar which goes in that space. I've taken them both out because to put this on there you couldn't get it on with the grub screw still in position. Now there's only 2 faces on there. If I get all the glue inside, I'm not going to be able to get that back in. By the way, I took the weight out, a big weight there. It unscrews and it's got a spring inside as well for adjusting the balance of the arm, and if necessary you can screw this in and out. If that had been taken out when it was shipped because it's really heavy, it wouldn't have broken off. Now the sort of glue that glues this plastic, it has to be very thin, because if it's thick then this will be needs to fit tight really. Otherwise this won't line up properly. Sometimes you can use this Cyana CA glue, this very thin one. It doesn't stick to some plastics, and you also have to be really careful because it runs like anything. It's so thin. If you put some on there and then it runs over everything, and it'll make a horrible mess. So I'll probably practice somewhere on a bit of this plastic where you can't see it first, and holding this in position after it's glued is going to be difficult because if you let go, it's just going to fall down. So a couple of practice runs without any glue, I think, and then try it. Okay, here goes. I'm going to try and glue this back onto the arm where it's broken off using this very thin glue. Oops. And it's got a very thin extension nozzle, so I can just put it in the right place. So let's just with a bit of paper just check how much comes out first. Okay, so you have to be really careful. Now I've got to get some onto the broken areas on here, just on the two edges, and so I'm going to do that, and then I'm going to have to hold it after I've got enough glue on it, hold it into position. So putting the glue on now. Well, hopefully that's not too much or too little. Now getting it into position is the difficult bit, and holding it in position. I think it's there. Okay, I'm holding it in position. Whether or not the glue will take, I've no idea. I'll hold it a few minutes, and then hopefully when I let go it won't fall off. Can use cyano accelerator, but if you're not careful, that leaves a white mark where you spray it on. I think there are some that don't do that. You have to get the right one, but I tend not to use that because it makes it go hard on the immediately, and I think it's best to let it soak in and set through properly. But I'm still holding it. This stuff's supposed to set within seconds, but I mean, I don't want to have a second go at it. Okay, I'm going to let go now. And luckily I haven't glued my hand to it either. So I'm going to leave it a few minutes, and obviously I've got to put the weight in, and that will tell whether the weight will snap it off again. Also, I've got to set the put the grub screw and the pivot in there. Right, I've glued it and left it a while. I'm not going to start bending backwards and forwards to see if it comes off. I'm going to try and assemble it. So we've got the lock-in collar and the pivot pin. I've got to go in. Locking collar, I think I'll try and get in first. That fits in. Luckily it's got some play on that one. It wasn't a tight fit. I don't think you need to over tighten these things. We've got no side play at all now, but it seems to be floating nicely. I'm not going to put undue pressure on there. I don't want to snap it off. It was I'm just not going to. That, I mean, it's assembled. Unless someone starts unscrewing it, or over time you can check it doesn't come undone. I can't see any way that's going to come undone under normal use. it's got the same sort of a thing on the top, which is a screw and a locking collar, and to set the up and down movement, and that is got no movement either. So it's in position. So now I've got to screw the weight in. I've put the weight just inside, and I'm wondering how you're supposed to screw it up. So I've got this screwdriver. Just got to put the cartridge in. Now I kept the cartridge in a box with a bit of like a rubber band on it. I had this handy box that something else came in. I kept it, and it's just a perfect size for keeping the cartridge safe, so that the stylus and everything doesn't bang around. It's a P mount, so it's got just plugs in, and it has a screw, this tiny screw here, screws into the side when it's in position. The P mount design was very good that the Japanese came up with. Meant that cartridges were very easy to replace. You just needed a screw and a tiny screwdriver. They plug out, plug in. They all weighed exactly the same, which I think was 6 grams or something. So you could get all sorts of makes, and the distance from the stylus from the end and everything was the same. So you could swap them over and didn't have to fiddle around with shims and tracking weight and everything else. I've adjusted the weight in and out to get the arm floating. If I just push down this this support, the arm is in the middle. So all I have to do now, apparently, is screw the weight in a bit and to measure the tracking force till it gets to 1 1/4 grams. Well, I've screwed the weight in now on the back here, and in and in and in until I've got the tracking force. You can see that's upside down, but it's 1.24 grams, which is close enough, I think. So it's hasn't come off, obviously. And you can set the anti-skating on this dial here to about about the same. It's supposed to be set the same, about should be 125. I think it's supposed to track out, but I think that's close enough. This arm works now. You can lift it up. The mechanism needed to be turned, but the turntable to release that. So that goes round on top of that little plastic part, so it's got a locking thing on there as well. So tracking weight, the weight on, everything's on. Just got to do the belt now. The belt's wrapped round on the inside here. So the belt is round the inside here. And you put a strong piece of paper around the belt, like so you can pull it. So when you put it on, you can pull the belt out and get it around the pulley, and then you just take the bit of paper out, and it's done. The turntable mat fits on like that, and then I've got the centre spindle. There's also that's for 45s that don't have a middle, and the stacking spindle. It's got this plastic piece on the end. You put it in, and you have to rotate it clockwise till it snaps into position. Well, that's it, you push it down and it snaps into position. It's got these little prongs on here, and you can set up to 6 records, and when you set the 6, you put the memogram. You've got 6 records, you put it on 6. If you put it on R repeat, it just keep on playing when it gets to the end, we're going backwards and forwards. So, or you can have it on 0 where you put it on and it just plays once. And you've got your size of the record, 7-inch, 10-inch, 12-inch, and then this arm will set down properly. I've got to check all that and make sure it's setting down properly. There's a couple of small adjustments you can do for that. And you've got the speed, 33 and 45. I've connected it up via a transformer, taking down 110 volts, and it's actually working if I press start. But one thing, that the set down point is not right, it sets down too early. But underneath here, the little rubber bung, you open it up and there's put a screwdriver down, you can adjust the set down point. Okay, I've adjusted the set down point with a bigger screwdriver. You only have to turn it a tiny little bit. Also, there's another adjustment for the pickup point when it gets to the inside, but that's underneath the deck. Hopefully that doesn't need doing, so I'll just try it again. Set to 12-inch. It should land on the edge of the record this time, before it landed too early. Yeah, it looks good now. Yeah, that's about the right place, I think. Now there's a problem with the stroboscope. Hopefully it's just a potentiometer needs cleaning. On the 33 revs, it's the second row down. This light shines on it and you should see 4 dots that remain stationary. I just start it up. I've lifted the arm up so that it won't come down the record. Now when it's stabilized, the top, the second row down, those 4 dots should be stationary. If they're not, you adjust the pitch control here. I sprayed some contact cleaner like this into that potentiometer, which is the speed varying potentiometer pitch control. Although it's sealed, this will penetrate into the little joints and get inside, and obviously you move it backwards and forwards as much as possible until it's flushed through. Just put a bit of tissue just in case it runs down, and I think that was just a bit dry. By the way, on the base here we've got there's 4 sort of little sprung feet, the felt pads. This one, the felt pad's missing. I'll get a piece of felt. You can get them for furniture, putting under furniture feet, and I'll put one on there. Otherwise it's just probably won't have much effect, but you might as well, as the others are there. And then I'll just finish this off on 45 RPM. Let's put it on there. Lift this arm. The 45 RPM is the top one. It's almost stationary. It's moving a tiny bit. I don't know if that shows up on the camera or not. You can adjust the pitch control to try and stop it moving. I think that's pretty good. So it is working. Stop that. Now to play just a single record, and you don't want to use a stacking system, you can take that out, and there's a nice little center knob that sticks up post with a little aluminium outer part that normally comes with these decks, but that's lost. But I do have this one from an old Garrard deck. It's a D-shaped one. Doesn't matter. It fits in the hole because they're always the same size, and then you can put a single, well, let's say you put your album on like that, and then it'll work without the stacking system. Otherwise it doesn't make a lot of difference, but you can probably pick up one of these sort of things very cheap, but because it doesn't have to have a cutout, it just needs to be circular. It's all finished now, and it's ideal for playing your singles. That's the main reason for having a stacking system. You can put your singles on and let them play. I doubt if you want to stack LPs on here. I put 3 of my old singles from many years ago, 40, 50 years, and I put 3 on there. You set it to 45 RPM. They're 7-inch singles, and the memogram, you put it number 3 is how many are on there, and then you just press play and it should auto play. I just play a few bars and then move it to the next one. By the way, the pitch control, since I cleaned it, it's working perfectly now, so you can see that locks in. It's the top one there. As soon as the mechanism stops it, which is a small load on it, it will stabilize like that. And just play a few bars. And it's interesting to note the memogram goes down. Every time it plays a record, the memogram goes down one. I'll just move it in so that it select the next record. Let's put the it's dropped 2. Anyway, the memogram moves down 1. The only problem with this stacking system is that if the records are a bit warped, or the holes are worn a bit large, like these have, sometimes it'll drop 2 instead of 1. It says that. It's just didn't really notice that a problem on the garage auto stacking systems I've got, but this one's obviously a bit more sensitive. So because it thinks it's only played 2 records at the moment, it will play 1 more, and this lever goes down to 0, showing it's on the last one. I just had the lift system on, so by the way, I've got the Perspex lid on, which is all good. It's quite high, obviously, because it's got to clear the top of the stacker. So it's finished. I can stack up my singles and listen to them now, and the sound is good from the AudioTechnica SL-B500 it's a good sound, not harsh, brittle, so that hasn't got to be changed at all. And this is one of the cheaper decks, by the way, the SL-B500. Out of all the Technics Auto stackers that were made, this was made about 1978 or late 1970s. They made a few auto stackers into the early 80s as well. I think all the mechanisms are basically the same, but they fiddled around a bit with the arm. Some of the arms are a bit nicer. They've got the tracking weight adjustment on the back of the weight, but the rest of it I think is basically cosmetic. Except, of course, yeah, this is a belt drive one. They did a lot of direct drive ones as well. The Rumble's no better. Some people prefer that to the belt. When you're playing old singles, I'm not too fussy. So there it is, all finished and working pretty good, I think.